This computer. Hi, welcome to Collective 365's Lunch and Learn series. We are so excited to have our two panelists, Candace and Jasmine, joining us for Real Estate, the Melaninated edition. And so we are wanting to have a conversation today about what it means to buy a home or maybe buy an investment property, what it means to sell, and just kind of what are some tips and tricks if you're like looking for a real estate agent, if you're thinking about home owners insurance, why do you need it versus just getting like a warranty or things of that nature. So Candace, before we started talking or recording this, brought up a good point about how we're, as a community, Black and Brown folks are playing catch up. And so I am going to turn it over to each of you to introduce yourselves. I'll start first. My name is Fatima. I am a co-founder of Collective 365, which is an organization that brings community conscious individuals together to create grant funding opportunities and capacity building opportunities for Black and Brown folks in DC, Maryland, Virginia. In short, we provide grants to businesses, individuals, groups, and nonprofits who are doing work with and for Black and Brown folks. So whoever wants to start, please introduce yourself.
Okay, well, I'll go. My name is Candace Noel, and I am a realtor in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I've been a licensed realtor since 2003. And I have pretty much been specializing in educating my clients throughout the process, not just selling them a home, but actually explaining the importance, the steps that are necessary in order to gain home ownership. And I know that we'll get into this later, but it's very critical to plan in advance and not kind of have the spirit move you within like 45 to 60 days before you need to buy a home. If there's a lot of steps that need to go into play before you actually get to that point. So yeah, I have over 18 years of experience in the real estate market. I have actually purchased investment properties myself. So I can speak to that for a lot of my clients who might be thinking of not only just a personal residence, but an investment property as far as rentals. And I also have recently gotten into some credit repair as a result of real estate to further help my clients, because for many years they kept saying, hey, they had a setback or surprise on their credit report. And then they say, well, do you know anyone that can help me? And then I wouldn't feel comfortable referring them to people because in that industry, uh, unfortunately, there's been some not so good players in that market. So I would never feel comfortable referring folks to them. And as a result of years of avoiding it, I finally took that plunge and got into the credit repair space. So that's one of my focuses right now in the industry. So that's a little bit about me. Just a local realtor in the state of Virginia, and I actually own personal property and investment property myself. And I'm just here for the betterment of everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jasmine.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jasmine Benford, and I am a real estate agent in the state of Virginia as well. I currently am with the King Realty Group at Cova Home Realty, and I have been in real estate since 2007, so not 18 years of experience. But I love absolutely selling homes. I love just working with buyers, putting them into homes, creating relationships. I have met some people that are absolutely amazing, and I pretty much have turned a lot of the clients into friends. So that's really a great experience that I've had. I'll piggyback off of Candace when she said that education is very important in preparing to purchase a home or buying a home, and even buying an investment property. I too own a home, an investment property. I have a rental. It's located on a college campus, so that's great. So I do have experience with working with first-time home buyers, military buyers, selling, pretty much everyone, investors. And so I am glad to be here. I'm glad to help educate Black and Brown people as we continue to move forward in home ownership, as well as just pursuing investment opportunities, whether it's rentals, flips, wholesaling, anything like that. So I'm really excited to have today's conversation.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you both. And I know folks who may be viewing this might be like, wait, the flyer had more people. So our other panelists, unfortunately, are dealing with some personal emergencies within the last 24 hours, and they're not able to be with us. And so initially, we were going to have representation from Virginia, Maryland, and DC. So we will be rescheduling so that we can cover the differences within the other localities. So don't think we've forgotten about DC and Maryland. We'll just be rescheduling, but we're really excited to have this Black Girl Magic moment here. So I'm going to jump in with the first question. What are some things, and I think Candace alluded to this in your opening of like, don't wait 30 days before it's time to move. But what are some things a person should do to prepare to purchase a home and or an investment property?
We just jumping in.
I was gonna say, so Jasmine, do you want to take that one first, or do you want me to kind of?
So I like to, me being a very organized person, I know some people are just like, hey, I'm ready to buy a house. Where do I start? When can I start? Let's go see a house. So first thing, of course, we'd like to discuss is always having your pre-approval, but it really starts before your pre-approval. So it starts with credit repairing, which I know Candace will kind of dig deeper into. She's more so an expert in that field. But it's more so, it goes beyond preparing for just purchasing the house, your pre-approval, preparing for your pre-approval. What does that look like? Having your W-2s ready if you're working, your typical 9 to 5. Have you filed your taxes for the last 2 years? Lenders, mortgage lenders are going to be looking for that information. What is your credit score like? Have you purchased any made any large purchases within the last 6 months, I'll say, or even in the last year? What were the purchases? So it could have been, did you buy a car? Did you purchase new appliances for some reason? What major purchases have you made, or new debt have you created that the lenders or mortgage lenders are going to mark that as a red flag as, hey, we may not be able to pre-approve you, or your pre-approval may be lower than what you're expecting based off your debt to income. So those are mainly some things that, just preparing for your pre-approval is a big one. Do not wait. If you're interested in buying a house, I always say, whether it's this year or next year, just get a pre-approval from a mortgage lender, because you want to see where you're at. Because you may say, I want to buy a house in December, and come to find out you're not able to, your credit score may be a little low, or you may not have the, income to purchase this house. You want to say, okay, next year, this is where I want to be. And then you could work with that credit specialist or that mortgage lender to get you to where you need to be by December or next March or something like that.
And I totally agree with everything you just said, Jasmine. I'd like to add, job security is very key, especially in a post-pandemic world. A lot of the lenders are, of course, looking for 2 years or more of a job history in the same industry. Especially, you can have switched jobs, but they want to see that you're staying in the same industry. So for example, if you're in the hospitality industry, you're allowed to switch from one hotel to another, or whatever it is that you were doing in the hospitality industry. They're trying to make sure that you weren't laid off from any jobs. They're going to verify your employment several times throughout the process, because now lenders are a lot more skittish about employment, just because they want to make sure that when you are approved for the home, that you'll still have gainful employment to pay those monthly payments when they're due. Now, so historically, the magic number that you wanted to hit was a 620. A lot of lenders have now raised that up to about 640. No, it's not in writing per se, like, oh, you must have a 640, because of course it's going to depend on the lender, because a lot of mortgage brokers have more than one type of investor that's willing to take on a riskier loan. So there are some that will give you a loan at a 590. However, you're going to have to come to the table with more money out of your pocket. Yes, there are programs that are out there that will offer you some down payment assistance. Like we have here in Virginia, we have what's called a VHDA loan. However, they do have requirements still. You have to meet an income restriction. And you have to, of course, have a favorable credit score. They're not just going to give you the down payment assistance without a favorable credit score. Of course, that job history that we mentioned again, they're also going to be, and it's not just about the credit score. So I want to make sure that we foot stomp that, because Jasmine kind of touched on it. They're going to be looking at some of your purchase history to see what it is that you've purchased in the last 12 months. It's most of the weight is between that 12 to 24 month mark. And the older the purchase, the better for your situation. But that all goes to say, you will need to, in a lot of cases, if you do not qualify for down payment assistance, you will need that down payment. So you might want to start earlier with setting aside some money, knowing that you want to purchase a home. You do not, and I need to reiterate this, you do not need to save 20% in order to purchase a home. So that's a misnomer that a lot of people get incorrect. So for example, the FHA loan is still offering 3.5% of the sales price as your down payment. And some lenders, depending on who you go through, they even offer better products than that. So it just depends on your credibility, as far as your credit report, what they see, what your income is. They're looking at your debt to income ratio. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And I just want to foot stomp the importance of starting early, like Jasmine mentioned, because you need to know where you are. Each person has a unique situation. No credit profile is exactly the same. You need to get started early, speaking with a professional. I always recommend starting with the loan officer first. But of course, if you're talking to a reputable realtor, they'll have reputable loan officers that they can refer to you in order to connect those dots and form those relationships. As Jasmine mentioned earlier in her introduction, we're all about relationship building and connecting people with folks that are reputable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do want to piggyback really quick.
Mhm.
So even though, you don't have to, thank goodness, everyone doesn't have to save 20% to put down on a house. My question is always to my buyers. Well, first I'll always say, disclaimer, I'm not trying to be in your financial business. However, do you have a savings? Because if you have to pay a down payment, whether it's 3.5%, whether it's a 3% conventional loan or a 5% conventional loan, can you pay the down payment? Can you pay your closing costs if needed? And then when you move into the house, God forbid something crazy happens. So really quick, small story. So my neighbors moved in, car came down the street, crashed into their house. It was the craziest thing ever because they don't even live near the curb. So how the car jumped the curb past the first house to their house, I have no idea. So of course, insurance is going to cover some of those things, but insurance may not cover everything depending on what type of insurance you have. And then also, maybe you wanted to redo your floors. Insurance may not cover the floors. Do you have money in your savings to get you some new floors? Maybe they're giving you not as much as you thought. Do you have money to replace your refrigerator that was ruined? Just different things of that nature. So I always ask, do you have a savings? I can't give you a number of what to save, but I would at least have that first month's mortgage in your savings, as well as another cushion. So I know that, sometimes we don't save money, or we're, doing the debt snowball and things like that. I would strongly encourage you to build up your savings some. You don't have to save 20%, but just save something. You just want to have a cushion. I don't want any of my clients ever to be what we call house poor. I want you to thrive in everything. So purchasing a home is amazing. Yes, it's a great accomplishment, but you might have to wait a little bit more months just so you can get your savings up. That's all.
Thank you for that. So there was a lot of information in that one question, and so I want to do a kind of summary, and then I'm going to ask you all to correct me if I get anything wrong. So what I heard first was start with a loan officer and find out what your pre-approval is. If you don't know who to go to for a loan officer, you can contact a trusted realtor who will refer you. I know that's what we did. We had the realtor first, and then she connected us the mortgage company and all of that stuff. So, and then after you get the pre-approval, making sure that you are taking into account not making any more purchases from that point forward, and then thinking about a savings. So if you need a down payment, knowing that it's, as Candace and Jasmine said, either 3.5, sometimes no down payment, sometimes 5, it varies. But also taking into consideration after you've put the down payment, what will be left. So having at least 1 month's mortgage. So if your mortgage is $1,600, maybe having $1,600 and then another $2,000, whatever, in your bank account. And the other thing I heard was that credit score, ideally, we're looking at about 640, but that is not a deal breaker. And that also you do not have to have 20% down. It just varies. But the takeaway was have a savings account and not just money for a down payment, but money beyond that. Did I get that right? Okay.
Yes, you did.
All right. So next question. Can you explain what makes a good real estate agent? So like, I'm not trying to be funny, but I know everybody is in real estate. Like, I know so many real estate agents, and not in a bad way, but like it gets overwhelming. It's kind of like when you go to like Target, and you're trying to just go in for one thing, but there's just so much looking at you. So how would you advise somebody? Of course, I know you're going to tell people to just come to you, but outside of the two of you, what should people be looking for? What are red flags for a real estate agent? And I'm going to add to this question, as well as lending companies, like the whole process, like insurance. So like there's homeowners insurance, and then there's warranty. Home warranties. Like, can y'all speak to kind of what makes a good real estate agent, what makes good homeowners insurance, a good mortgage company? Can you kind of go down that way?
Well, one of the things that I get as feedback from my clients is that, number one, I'm super responsive. They like that because a lot of agents, either they might start off strong, respond to a couple of emails, put a client on the drip email that's automated through our system. But then when the client is trying to get in touch with them, it's hard to do so, and it's hard to schedule an appointment with them. So for me, that's one of the things. I'm very responsive to my clients. I'm transparent as well. I believe in transparency. I don't try to hide any information from them. I don't try to sugarcoat, because a lot of misnomers I get from people is that they believe that if they have multiple realtors, that they're going to get some sort of different list of properties that are out there. There's no secret list. We all share the same MLS system. So there's no real need to go from realtor to realtor hoping to get some sort of different magical list. That it does not exist. We all share the same MLS. Also, looking at the ratings of the realtor is important. A lot of folks that reach out to me, they say that they found me on various websites that offer reviews. I'm not big on naming names just because I don't want to promote any other companies at this moment. But reading reviews for the realtors is key. Getting a feel for what are the consistent messages that you're seeing across the board as far as the client reviews. Are you seeing that, for example, the person is responsive? They work with a lot with first-time home buyers. Do they work mostly with sellers? What is the key takeaway for the feedback? And does that resonate with you? And then, of course, talking to more than one realtor at a time, it doesn't hurt. Getting a feel for whether or not you guys would be a good fit for each other. I tell people during my interview process that first things first, I don't pressure anyone to do anything, especially when it comes to purchasing a home, because I know that it's such a personal decision. And I would never want someone to feel obligated to purchase anything because I push them in that direction. It's a place that you have to feel comfortable with. So I think interviewing the realtor, getting a good vibe with them and making sure that you're going to mesh well is important. And if you're not a good fit, you're not a good fit. It has to be a win-win situation for all parties involved. So I think that's going to be key. Now, if you're always calling your realtor, here's the red flag for me. If you're calling the realtor during normal business hours, like, and I say normal because sometimes people want to call us at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. We do have family members, right? So we can't be expected to be on the clock all the time, 24/7. But if you're calling during those core hours of like 9 to 5 or something, and then they're just consistently unavailable, that might be a red flag that they're unavailable because they're working a full-time job. And then when you're ready to take them out, when you're ready to go out to look for a home, you might find it problematic. And in this market, especially, it's such a hot market that you don't have any time to spare at all. So you might want to reconsider. If you can't reach them during those business hours, you might want to reconsider.
Yeah, and Jasmine, I'm gonna let you answer, and I just want to jump in about the market. I have a friend, he put in an offer without even seeing the house. And then when he got in the house, he increased the offer. But like people are putting in offers like without stepping foot in it. People are even putting in offers saying like as is. So yeah.
Yes, this market is crazy hot right now. And it's this nationwide. It's not just exclusive to Virginia and DC and Maryland. This is nationwide. So,
So I think Candace answered that question great. I will just add 2 things. So I will emphasize communication is key. We are in the relationship building business. It's about relationships, and making sure you're a good fit with someone is important. I'm just grateful that I have worked with so many clients that have literally turned into friendships. Not everyone, but some have turned into friendships, and I truly cherish them. The second thing is just knowing how to encourage someone. So right now the market is hot. We have buyers that we may be working with who have submitted. We just got to keep them encouraged. So having someone understand and empathize with you, and just know how to encourage you to keep going. Don't give up, because this is a dream that you have. This is a goal that you have set. You're going to get there. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be hurdles, but eventually you'll get there. So I try to encourage my clients. I try to let them know up front, hey, we may not get the first house. We may not get the second house, but you never know. You may get that first house. We just have to be consistent in everything we do and just keep your head high. So those are the 2 things.
Awesome. Do you have any tips about like homeowner insurance, home warranty, lenders?
So with the lenders, it's all about relationships. So I have 2 lenders that I refer my clients to, normally between 2 to 3. And it's about the relationships I have with them. So one, how do we start that relationship? So I met with my lenders over lunch. We have conversations. I connect with them at least once a week to get market updates on what's going on in the lender world. And then also I do have some personal relationships with them, because I'm really big on relationship building. Like I've said time and time again, like these are people that I'm going to work with. So I need to know their work ethic, and I'm referring my clients to them. I'm referring my new friends to them. If I can't trust whoever I'm working with in the field, I'm not referring my clients to you. So it's really important to me. And I'm big on vibes, and I'm big on, just knowing who I'm working with at all times, because I know we don't want our clients to call us at 10, 11 o'clock at night. But if I need something at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I don't want to feel bad sending a text knowing that you'll respond in the morning, but I know I just want to get that text out. So of course, when I'm meeting with lenders, I'm like, hey, I might shoot you a text 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, because maybe a house popped up on the market at 11:01 and my client wants to submit an offer. I don't know. I just want to be able to say, hey, I'm going to text you, but I don't expect you to respond until the morning. Now, if you want to text me back at 11:05 after I sent you that text, by all means, you can do that. And I would love you for that, but you don't have to. So really just kind of building those relationships. And the same thing goes with home warranty companies, home insurance companies as well. I know with home warranties, I know I don't personally talk to a lot of them, but I go off of my experience with the one that I had my own and the representative that sold me my home warranty and then my clients. So I like home warranties. Normally they don't check in on you a lot, but for some reason my rep does. And I appreciate that because I don't want to be just another number. And then for the home insurance, I normally go with, the car insurance sometimes because you can get a better rate, in all honesty. But of course, we do have some home insurance agents that I work with that will keep in touch with me. I don't necessarily use them, but if I feel that it's very consistent and they're genuine about, serving my clients and it's all about the client, or my new friends. It's all about my new friends. So if I feel comfortable referring them to my client, my new friend, then so be it. That's who's getting the business.
And I agree with everything Jasmine just said. I don't have any particular companies that I recommend for home warranties or homeowners insurance, but they need to know that there is a difference. So the home warranty is going to take care of the things such as your appliances breaking down, your HVAC system going awry, things of that nature. Your homeowner's insurance is going to take care of something more catastrophic, like your roof is leaking, your foundation is having issues. So I just want to make sure that there's a distinction made there. But I don't have any recommended companies. I'm not 100% team home warranties. It just depends on how much savings you have and whether or not you can afford to take care of the various systems in your home on your own. And so if you get to that point where you're self-insured is what they call that. It's just because everyone's heard those nightmare stories of having a home warranty company and then they're sending you some cut rate subcontractor that's cutting corners or not telling the truth about what they are observing, and then they're saying, oh well, that's not covered under warranty. I don't have time for that. But I'm not discouraging it. It's just, it depends on your situation and what you have in your savings account, of whether or not you want to hire your own personal appliance technician from a local company that you are able to vet, or if you want to come out of pocket to replace the entire appliance or replace or repair your HVAC system, or your plumbing goes awry, you have a leak or something of that nature. So it just depends on your financial situation and what you prefer. So that's all I have to say about homeowners insurance versus home warranties.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all clarifying, because I think sometimes people use them interchangeably, not realizing that they're two different. So recap really quick: homeowners insurance, like you've got a hailstorm, you've got damage to your roof, foundation, that's homeowners insurance. Home warranty is like, oh, my washing machine is making a weird noise. You would call them, they would send somebody that they contract to come to your home. So to Candace's point, you don't actually have the ability to say, I want to get 3 quotes from 3 different people and vet them. You're going with them, and then they'll determine if it's covered. So thank you. The next question I have is, can you speak to barriers that Black and Brown folks face when they're trying to buy and sell? And this question really comes from what we've seen in the news with Black homeowners who are getting their houses appraised because they want to sell, and their houses are appraising for 10, 50, 100,000 less because they're Black. And then they come in and they get a white neighbor or white family member to stand in their home, and magically that same house now appraises for $20,000, $30,000, $100,000 more. So if you all could speak to kind of like historical context and or personal.
Yeah, so I definitely saw that recent article that you're mentioning, where they kind of expanded on that, and on a news report as well. And I think that it's unfortunate that the people of color, the communities of color, are still being treated unfairly in that way. Unfortunately, racism is still alive and well in America. However, what I try to tell my clients period, and this is no matter their nationality, is to, number one, depersonalize your home right away. The moment you're about to put it on the market, I tell them to remove as many personal effects as possible. That means pictures and personal effects that might even tell your background. And I include religious beliefs as well. I'm not saying to hide your religion, but I just definitely speak to depersonalizing. This gives people the ability to visualize themselves in the home and visualize their family photos and artifacts to be in the home. So this, again, is for all of my clients, no matter their background. And it's just more so geared towards allowing the buyers to visualize themselves in the home instead of trying to overcome the visual that you've put in there that it's their home. So you just have to depersonalize as much as possible. Now, speaking from a historical level of the disparities within the communities of color, of course, you know, in the past, and it still might be going on today. I'm not sure. I have not had firsthand experience in this realm, but unfortunately, communities of color, we have not had the same access to credit as the majority. And when we do get access to the credit, sometimes we get some of those predatory lending loan options, the subprime loan options, especially when those were still a big thing. Of course, they cut down on that once the 2006 bubble happened, and then it burst in 2007. So they've cut down a lot on some of those subprime loans, but they are still out there. But prior to that, that was where a lot of the Black and Latinos were kind of pushed into. And of course, the devaluing of the Black and brown communities, like you kind of mentioned, where they don't get the same appraised values as the majority have out there. So Jasmine, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I just want to reiterate, I personally have not witnessed that here, but that's not to say that it does not exist. I just might not be aware of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and same here. I haven't had any experience with, you know, some of those barriers, but I will say, don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask questions. If you don't understand acronyms, if your agent is, you know, just talking in a lot of acronyms, ask what they stand for, or why, you know, maybe what that acronym stands for and why. Ask questions to your lenders. Talk to 2 to 3 lenders, because one lender can give you, you know, a pre-approval for a certain amount with better rates. The other one may, you know, charge you additional rates or points to get you to where you need to be. So you want to know why. I will say, and that's just the main thing, is that if you feel, you know, that you don't know something, do not be afraid to ask questions. This is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, investment that you are making. So you know, you're owed answers. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
And I do have one more thing. Don't feel pressured to move into a certain neighborhood just because a realtor is recommending that, because you want to make sure that you're going into the neighborhood. Well, do your best. I tell people to do your best to educate yourself about a neighborhood before you even start going in that direction. That's one of the things that we talk about in our first meeting when I'm talking with my buyers, is about checking out the neighborhood during different times of the day. Going in the middle of the day, see what the vibe of the neighborhood is, going in the morning, going at night, things of that nature, to see. Because some people, they don't want to be in the neighborhood with a lot of kids. So, hey, listen, if you don't want to be in a neighborhood with a lot of kids, go after school hours to see how many children are in the neighborhood, you know, things of that nature. So just do your due diligence at the same time and educate yourself as to where you're potentially living, and do online research. I know that they have a lot of heat maps that are available nowadays online as well, if you're concerned about crime or anything else.
Good stuff.
So I appreciate both answers. Want to circle back to something that Jasmine said about a real estate agent that's using a lot of acronyms or jargon. To me, that goes back to one of our questions of red flags. Like my realtor, like I love that she breaks everything down. Like not in a way that she's talking to me like I'm dumb, but like I don't have to ask what is blah, 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 blah. She is like, hey, FDHA means blah, 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 blah. And then she'll keep talking about whatever it is in the context of that. Another thing that Candace said was heat maps. If you could define what that is, and also if there are other tips that folks should be doing, like when they're scouting a neighborhood.
So heat maps are maps that will tell you about the demographics of the area that you're moving into. It depends on what website you use, because there's of course several, and there's several free and then several paid, but it's going to tell you some of the generalized information, demographics, crime, and if there's crime, what type of crimes that are out there. They even have mappings for schools and things of that nature. So that's what I mean by heat map. It's basically an overlay on a regular map like that you might see on Google Maps, but then you get to click certain buttons depending on what's important to you to highlight whether or not there's crime, it'll even break down things like median income and things of that nature. It just depends on what type of statistics you want to get into. So that's just for my tech people that might be really interested in niching down to get a feel for an area or a region even.
So for this other tips for scouting that you asked, talk to the neighbors. So of course I always have a story. I went to go show my client a house that he's purchasing. Went outside, of course it was a hot day, looked across the street, neighbors were in their front lawn playing with their grandson. Went over there, just had a casual conversation, just to talk, just to say hi. I see you outside, we're waving at each other. So I just went over there. That conversation turned into like 30 to 45 minutes. So go back yesterday for the home inspection, because we did get the house on a contract. Go back yesterday for the home inspection. Once again, I'm across the street talking to the neighbor for like 45 minutes. And I just made another new friend. Not that I'm trying to sell her house or anything like that. It was just genuine conversation. She's such a sweet lady. And she told me literally everything about the neighborhood, about the neighbors, how long she lived in the house, what renovations she's done, the renovations on the house that I'm currently, under contract with my client, the neighbors next to that house, how long they've been in the military. She's told me so much about the whole neighborhood. And I'm like, wow. And she's been there for 20 something years. So talk to the neighbors. I know that in this day and age, we don't talk to our neighbors as much as our parents probably talk to our neighbors. Because I know I used to get in trouble and my neighbors didn't have problems telling my dad what I was doing. But nowadays, it's like everybody's minding their own business. To a certain extent, I understand, but we all need to look out for each other, especially if Black and brown people are trying to move into these communities or move into these neighborhoods and start creating communities. It's all about communities. And of course, it takes a village. So you want to know when you're out of town, who's going to watch my mail? Who's going to pick up my mail? If you're like me, you have Amazon and Shein packages coming every other day. If I'm out of town in Mexico, wherever, I want my neighbor to say, hey, Jazz, I picked up your packages for you. Your mailbox was full. I'm going to pick up your mailboxes. Or, hey, there was a strange person sitting on your porch. Like, I want to know that kind of information. So talk to the neighbors that are out there. And it's not that you're trying to be in their business and they're trying to get, be in yours. But if you get to a neighborhood and you love the neighborhood, but then next thing you know, you see the neighbors and they have junk in their yard and, they're yelling and fussing. Do you really want to move inside the house even though you really like it? You want to talk to the neighbors to get a feel of what's going on in the neighborhood, how long they've been there, because you never know. You may be moving into a neighborhood that you thought you liked, and then it was transient with a whole bunch of rentals and a whole bunch of landlords who don't take care of their properties. Then your property value might go down and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to talk to the neighbors. Get a little friendly when you're house hunting.
Awesome. That was a good story. And a good reminder that, yes, we're buying a house, but we're also buying into a community. So thank you for that reminder. I want to shift gears because it is 12:40 and I know we have a few people on the call. So I want to give them an opportunity to ask questions. So I want to shift gears into investment properties. If you all can speak to kind of what that means, how somebody goes into doing that. And one of the biggest things I hear people talking about is like, if I have a house, can I buy another house? Like, what does that mean? a property manager versus not a property manager. So all the things investment, if you could do that maybe in the next like 5-8 minutes and go.
Jasmine, I'll let you go first because I have a story for this one.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep mine short. Investment property. So basically, is okay. I'm trying to describe it without using the word, but an investment property is something that can bring you extra income, and I'll just kind of throw it around. So with real estate, there's so many opportunities to invest in real estate. You're putting money into a service / product to create some kind of outcome. So whether the outcome be rental income and also changing the lives of the tenants that are living in that house, to increase values or the upkeep of a neighborhood. So are you flipping properties, which basically you're buying, maybe properties that need to be rehabbed and remodeling them, renovating them to bring them pretty much up to the value of what the other houses in that neighborhood are going for. There's wholesaling. So that's basically selling homes without a real estate license. And I know I'm just going through these very quickly. There's real estate notes that you can get into. There's so much, so much. So maybe we can have just an investment call. But I'm going to speak to the side of rental properties because I do have a rental property on a college campus of my alma mater, Old Dominion University. And so getting into real estate. So I originally bought the house to live in the house. So I lived in it for for a year. And then I decided that this could make me some money. I don't have to pay the mortgage, and I could also potentially get twice the mortgage for this house. So why not rent it? So I packed my things up, moved back to the dad's house because, what girl doesn't love living with her dad? And so, that property is making money. It's in the LLC now, and I technically have a whole business out of it. So I self-manage it myself because eventually my goal is to have more than 25 rental properties and start my own property management company for my one day soon to be family to run. So I wanted the experience myself, and I've gotten experience from different outlets, such as my favorite go-to is Bigger Pockets online, which is similar to like a real estate investment group Facebook. And then also I go to local meetups in the area to learn more about investing. And then I just have friends who invest in real estate. So I always pick their brains. So there we go. Short and sweet. If you have questions, of course, you can reach out to me, but I think we should do an investment call because I think that would be great.
I think that will be our next call.
I agree because there's a lot you can go into because she touched on a lot of them rental properties. You can do wholesaling, which she mentioned is kind of like selling a property without a real estate license, which I've done. Even though I'm a licensed realtor, you can still do it in other states that you're not a licensed realtor. And then you can have a property that is like a laundromat. You own the property, but it's a laundromat. It's a business instead of rental property. And then you can do what's called control, where you can actually have a lease on a property and then you're subleasing it, such as Airbnb, VRBO, where you don't actually own it, but you're doing more of a corporate lease. So that's a whole different situation. But for simplicity purposes, rental properties. Okay, so this is where my story comes in. Sorry, I'm laughing because it's funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time. But I was in college, George Mason, and I decided I was almost about, I know, right? Go George Mason, right? So I decided that the housing bubble was huge. You could not buy anything in Northern Virginia. I mean, literally, you look at a condo and the condo's going for $500,000 in the slums, almost kind of thing, right? There's no slums really in Virginia, in my humble opinion, Northern Virginia, right? However, you're literally getting sticks and straws for $500,000. This is back in 2006, 2005 and 6, and everything's going. You put in a contract, and then the next month it's worth double what you paid for it, right? It was just that insanely hot. And so, long story short, I decided, hey, I'm about to graduate from college. I don't know where I'm going to live. I'm a licensed realtor at this point, but I'm feeling priced out of the area. So I start taking a look in other states. And at that time, Atlanta was referred to as Hotlanta. So I said, oh, I'm going to move down to Hotlanta potentially. And So I bought my first investment property at the tender age of 22, and I bought it in East Point, Georgia. This is where my life changed as not only a realtor, but as an investor, because there's nothing like experience being your best teacher. Because some things you can be told, some things you can read about, but there's nothing that's going to replace that hands-on experience, that on-the-job training. And I learned very quickly that number one, I did not buy in a favorable neighborhood. So I had to learn about being a long distance landlord, and not becoming familiar with the area before I invested. I kind of literally jumped in just head first. I did not have the right folks set up in that area. I did not educate myself on the numbers. I just kind of did something because it was, number one, in my price range. Number two, the monthly payments were, good enough. Number three, it was new construction. So I was like, hey, what can go wrong? Okay, a lot can go wrong. Called the bubble bursted before I could even get out the gate. And so the biggest takeaway is, if you're going to be a long distance landlord, you really need to familiarize yourself with that area, or at least set yourself up with trusted advisors for that area. You need a realtor that's going to be transparent about neighborhoods that are going to bring you in the best type of tenant that you're looking for, because there's grades as far as tenancy goes. There's grade A, grade B, grade C, and grade D. And if you're on grade D, those are usually, you're going to be in the slums area, and you're going to be geared towards more like Section 8 housing. And then there's the A list, where you're more in the single family homes potentially, or you're in a favorable metropolitan area and things of that nature. So you need to know what type of tenant you're going after. You need to be educated on that. You need to know your numbers before you purchase the home. You need to know your numbers. And just because you're clearing like $100 a month, you need to make sure that you're actually clearing that $100 a month, and that you did not forget to take into account the property management fees, etc. So long story short, I wound up losing that property. So I purchased that property in 2006, and by 2010 I had to do what's called a short sale. And so that's when you pretty much sell the home at a loss with the permission of the bank. So instead of a foreclosure, and instead of deed in lieu of foreclosure, it's like 2 steps away from foreclosure, basically. So I had to sell the home at a loss. The bank had to agree to take that loss as well. There's a lot of nuances that go into short sales, but long story short, I did not know my numbers. So I went in upside down, not knowing that the rents for that area did not support what my mortgage payment was. I was just so eager to buy my first property and that I could afford it. And I was kind of banking on the housing market to continue on that upward trend to then get out of it and get, some equity out of it, versus not necessarily the monthly mortgage. So I was paying out of pocket the difference between the rent that I was receiving and the mortgage that I was paying. So that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it as far as the investment properties. But there's so many other ways. Oh, and I mean, since then I've invested again. So it's not like, oh, that happened and I was like, oh, I'm never going to buy another investment property again. No, everything is a learning lesson, and it's all about what you make out of it. But it did teach me the importance of, like Jasmine's been saying, the relationships, and bigger pockets is a very big resource when it comes to all types of investing, when it comes to real estate and things of that nature. So Bigger Pockets is a website that I would recommend if you were looking for like-minded folks in that arena and you wanted to educate yourself. Or of course, you can always host another webinar on this topic. So that's pretty much where I stand on investment properties. I thoroughly support it, and we do still own investment properties.
So. Awesome. Thank you both for doing a crash course in investment, and a great teaser for our next webinar. So I'm going to pause on our questions because we have about 9 minutes left. So if folks that are in the chat want to unmute themselves or use the actual like typing chat to ask any questions of our wonderful panelists, feel free to do that. If not, I'll ask my like last two questions. So yeah, opening the floor to questions. All right, so I'm not, oh, I have a 2-year-old in the background. You can't see her, but you can very much hear her. Oh, we got a question. I don't have a specific question, but I would like to know more about property management.
Are you asking in regards to hiring a property management or getting into property management yourself? Because, and while we're waiting for her to clarify, what I will say about property management is that certain states you are required to be licensed, and then some you are not. Georgia was one of those where you were not required to be licensed to be property managers, and it definitely showed. Property managers, their fees range, but they usually don't exceed 10% of the monthly income. Oh, okay. So getting into it yourself, I'm interested in purchasing rentals. Well, in that case, you would be doing what's called self-managing. So if you're purchasing your own rental properties and then you're managing, that's self-managing. You don't have any rules when it comes to managing your own rentals. You're theoretically not going to charge yourself a fee. So there's no real requirements for you to meet if you're managing your own rentals. But if you were hiring a third party or you were looking to be hired by a third party, then you have to meet your state regulations. As far as becoming a property manager, usually their fees do not exceed 10% a month. Usually you can get a good property manager for between 8 and 10% per month. And they usually take care of collecting your rents and making sure the property is maintained. So they would get those 2 a.m. calls saying, hey, the toilet is flooded, things of that nature. They're supposed to winterize your property for you if you're in a state where you have cold months. I had an issue with that in Georgia. It got cold the first year. They did not winterize the property because I guess it rarely ever gets cold down there in Georgia, but they did not winterize the pipes and the pipes burst. And that's when that homeowner's insurance kicked in because the pipes burst. And it not only flooded my particular townhouse unit, but it flooded the 2 neighbors on each side. So that was fun. And that was my first year of owning an investment property. So yeah, that is where that nest egg comes into play that Jasmine so eloquently mentioned. However, I was in college, so guess who did not really have a nest egg? This person. So it's important that you actually have a reputable property management company that would not have missed an important step like that. And so again, Georgia at that time, I don't know what the laws are now, they did not require them to be licensed in that arena.
So am I hearing you correctly, Candace, in saying that if so I have a property that I'm renting out, I can manage it myself. I don't need to like be licensed or anything. But if Jasmine calls me and says, hey, can you manage my property too? I would then need to become licensed.
Well, it depends on your state and the state's regulations, because for Virginia, you have to be licensed. But for other states, I can't speak on it. I know at the time for Georgia, back in, between 2006 and 2010, from firsthand experience, they were not required to be licensed. I don't know if it's still that way today, because of course it's now 11 years later. And so I'm not sure what the requirements might be for Georgia now.
Awesome. Any other questions? We've got about 4 minutes left.
Well, I definitely want to touch on the importance of why people would want to invest in properties in general for both personal and investment purposes, because as it's becoming more widely known, investment properties and personal residence, they are a lot of people's nest eggs, and they help with that wealth building to kind of catapult you to the next level as you're especially building up that equity, and getting some tax benefits as well. So it's very important that people take it seriously. Don't wait too long to really start getting serious about the purchasing of property, whether it's your personal residence or an investment property. My very first property was not for me to live in. It was an investment property. So you don't have to get hung up on, I have to live in it first. Your first property does not have to be your primary residence. It could be for investment. It just depends on your lifestyle. Some people prefer to rent where they are because they're not sure where they would like to ultimately settle down, but they know this area might be great for investing. Like Jasmine mentioned, she's in a college town. So college towns are known for having transient tenants. You're going to have a better turnover. You kind of already know who your target is. And so she's generating wealth passively by, number one, having time on her side to gain hopefully equity. I'm not sure if it's an appreciating market down there. I would assume with Old Dominion it would be. And then number two, she's collecting some sort of cash flow, hopefully per month. And so she's double-sided on that, and she gets some write-offs for tax benefit purposes.
Yes, yes. That just makes me excited, and I'm not even getting the money. Any last words, Jasmine, that you want to share?
So my last words, and I've already said it, was please save. Have a savings set aside. I cannot stress that enough. So, and a savings, not just in your 401k or 403b. If you know you want to purchase a house, give yourself some time, talk to a lender first, but really have a savings, because you don't know if you have to pay a down payment, but there are down payment programs. But then again, if you're making, a great amount of money, you may not qualify for those programs. So just save, save, save. And if you're planning to purchase, at least in the next 6 months, please don't make any large purchases. And happy house hunting.
Yes, snaps to this. This was really, really great to be in community with talented Black women who are helping folks create personal and generational wealth. So thank you for what you all are doing, and you do it with like a real passion. Like I can tell that you care about your clients, or as Jasmine calls them, her new friends. So I hope that we can get back together for an investment call / talking more about what we've already covered today. But I want to say thank you on behalf of Collective 365 for joining us today. Jasmine and Candace will share some resources. I'll put them in a Google folder, and they'll be linked in the YouTube description. So this video will be uploaded to YouTube, and within the description, we'll link to the Google folder with resources. And really quickly, if people want to contact you, where can they contact you? And also we'll put that in the description as well. So if you want to share how people can get in contact with you.
Yes, if you're looking to get in contact with me, I am located in the Hampton Roads area. My Instagram is just JUST ask ASK Jazz JAZZ 757 on Instagram, and my email is the same, just ask Jazz 757@gmail.com. Those are probably the best ways to get in touch with me. My phone number is actually on my Instagram, so you can feel free to contact me on there. I'm very responsive. If you just have any questions, feel free to reach out. And like I said before, I think one of the barriers to purchasing homes or investments is that we don't ask enough questions. So thank you, Collective 365, for having me. Candace, it was nice meeting you. You are a wealth of knowledge. So I am so glad I've connected with you, and I plan on connecting with you offline as well.
Absolutely. Likewise. And so, as you guys already know, my name is Candace Noel. You can also reach me on Instagram. I am CN, which are just my initials, CN Realtor Life. That's my name on Instagram. And my email is woodbridgeproperties@gmail.com because that's pretty much where I serve. I'm in Northern Virginia. And my telephone number is also on Instagram. It's 571-402-5155. My website is impactrealtyservices.com if anyone's interested. And thank you so much, Collective 365. This has been a great opportunity to speak with a wider audience and just to educate everyone on the process. And I'm thankful to have been a part of it.
Yes, I forget that I'm muted. I'm like, yes, over here, nobody can hear me. So yes, thank you both. And I hope that you have a lovely rest of your week. So thank you all for coming in to watch in real time and those for viewing the recording. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye.